The meeting is called to order at 5 p.m. Please stand for the flag salute. Ready, begin. States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Roll call. Let the record reflect that all board members of the governing board and administration are present. Approval of agenda. It's recommended that the governing board approve the agenda of March 14, 2022. Governing board meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Chef.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Castaneda. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Approval of minutes. Approval of the February 28, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion? Motion. Thank you, Ms. Strong.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Hearing session. The audience members may request to address the board on an item on or off the agenda per board bylaws 9323. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the governing board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board limits the total limit to public input on each item to 20 minutes. The total time allowed for public comment shall be 30 minutes. Audience members wishing to address the board during the hearing session of the agenda should fill out a request to address the governing board form and turn it into the executive assistant prior to the board holding the hearing session. Dr. Mendoza.
We have one public comment.
I do not have Ms. Mary Humphries.
Oh, okay, I'll try. They can probably hear me without it. Hi, my name is Mary Humphries. I'm a resident and taxpayer in the Buena Park School District. I am currently completing my 54th year teaching in the Buena Park School District. There's more. I'm also a product of the Buena Park School District from Macomber way back. Anyway, I'd like to address two concerns I have: substitute salaries and communication. My first concern has to do with substitutes. I'm sure we've all seen the multiple media reports of the shortage of substitutes that we're also seeing in Buena Park. We all care deeply about the students, and full-time teachers really would rather teach their own class than have someone else teach it. A half-day sub fills the need for those who don't want to be gone for the full day. In the midst of such a severe shortage of substitutes, the decision to take a job on any given day could be affected by the perception of how the job is valued. I actually spoke to you in July of 2019, and after a year and a half of study, you did away with the tiered payment system. At the same time, you added $5 to the half-day substitute pay. Now that seemed like a raise, but it really wasn't, because at the same time, you added 15 minutes to the half day, making it a total of 4 hours for $80. That is exactly the same rate as they were getting before. Therefore, no raise. I actually know something about the half-day pay issue. Historically, the half-day pay was a little more than half the full-day pay. I have a paycheck stub from 2011. That's the earliest one I could find, with the half-day pay shown as $75. So that half-day rate has remained the same for over 10 years. This year, due to a shortage of substitutes, you raised the daily rate to $160 for a 7.5-hour day. If you consider that the current half-day is listed as more than half the full day, yet the pay is just a half the full day pay, that seems to be inconsistent. I noticed you recently raised substitute administrator pay to $700 per day. That says a lot about district priorities. I hope you'll consider doing something about this issue without another year and a half of study. The people who work for this district as substitutes are valuable employees. They should be treated as such. Bringing the half-day pay into line with the time worked and historical precedent would be one way to convey that these employees are valued. The changes should also be communicated when they are made. I checked the human resources section on the website. The salaries for full day and long-term have not been updated since they were increased a year ago. Or since they've been updated to the salaries from 21, but the current one, they have not.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I was going to tell you that I've been on the website.
Go ahead, finish it.
I've been on it to find information. Have you checked it out recently? I looked for the hours for district office. Couldn't find them anywhere on the website, and I tried everything I could think of. I Googled it, and that was incorrect, the hours they were showing. Individual school information and staff directories. There's even a letter welcoming me to the 2021 school year. Some schools list their staff, even grade levels. Others have obviously not updated the list for a while since they list people who retired last year. One school simply lists a principal and a vice principal and no one else. Are they the only members of the staff? I do read your agendas and minutes, especially your comments about all the great things you see in this district. And believe me, we used to be known as the best kept secret in Orange County. But it's time to get back to some of the basics. What about the stuff that isn't exciting? What about details? What's actually happening? Something to think about. Thank you for your time. Hope it gives you something to think about and to work on.
We're moving on to governing board comments. Start with Ms. Ahmad, please.
Thank you. I'd like to start off by welcoming our Pendleton staff and families. It's so nice to see you all. I feel like it's been forever. Hopefully I'll be able to visit soon. Is it tomorrow? No, but Whitaker's tomorrow. Soon, I'll be there soon. I want to first start off by congratulating our speech and debate students this weekend that did just an amazing job. I mean, it was so great to actually see. I want to especially congratulate Fatima and Eugene, who we were able to have their speeches sent to us, and we listened to them. Just such great speeches and something to be very proud of. I want to congratulate them for representing us in the county. Also want to congratulate our chess teams that had a blast this Saturday, and I heard from a few students that I know that are on that team. So I want to thank them, and I'm really excited for their opportunity that they're going to have pending approval of today's trip, that they'll be able to go to Texas and represent and compete there. So that's really exciting that we give them this opportunity. I also wanted to just make an announcement about casino night for the foundation. So we will be having a fundraiser on May 14th, I believe, and just wanted to invite all the families of Buena Park, all the staff. I feel like it's been a while since we've had anything like this, so it'll be nice to kind of just connect. There is a code for Buena Park staff that gives them a discount, and I just hope it'll be a success. That's it for me.
Thanks, Ahmad. Mr. Chong.
Yeah, I also like to welcome Pendleton in the house today. It'd be great to hear about what's been going on there, and looking forward to your report. I wanted to say a couple of things. One, there's Q coming up this week. It's a big tech conference in Palm Springs. I know we have a big representation from our district. And so I want to wish them a fun time and a really good learning opportunity, especially with the coaching group. And so a lot of great things going on. So for us to be represented there, and a strong representation is a great thing. So I hope you guys have fun and learn a lot and bring back a lot. And I want to thank the superintendent for, I heard what he shared at or presented at on a panel for the Ensured Justice Conference in Vanguard, his alumni, his alma mater. And just to see him out there representing what is right and what is meant to be, standing up for what's right in the community that's kind of hard to see these days. So commend you for doing that, and thank you for putting yourself out there and putting a face on our district. So that's it for me today.
Ms. Castaneda?
Hi, I hope everyone's having a great afternoon. I hope everyone's doing well with the time change. I know that hit the kids probably more than the adults, who knows. But yeah, last weekend I had the pleasure of visiting Gilbert School. Slowly and surely, I'm visiting all the schools. I'm getting there. So eventually I would do all the schools. But last week I got to visit Gilbert School, my home school, and it was just great to be there. And I love how they were celebrating kindness. Kindness, whether if it's kindness week or kindness month, if it is or if it isn't, I just loved how they're celebrating it all year round, and little things, you know, like filling your bucket with kindness. And she had different activities to do for the students, and that was really great to see, to be implemented that in her and during the school day. I got to see a little bit of everything, writing and CGI. And one of my favorite things was in one of the classrooms, I was able to see a teacher actually doing one-on-one a math lesson with a student and helping them out. And just to see her, the way that she was speaking to him and explaining everything, the math problem, was really great, because compared to years back when something was explained to you, the way that she did it, I was like, wow, that could have helped me a lot. That could have made a difference. So it was really great to actually see it in person and see that one-on-one lesson. So it was a really great visit. I'm excited for all the reports today, don't get me wrong, but I'm really excited to see Pendleton's presentation today. I mean, Pendleton has my heart, and so I'm excited for today's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castaneda. Ms. Shep?
Thank you. Well, I wanted to first say that I'm proud that our district is continuing to support family choice in response to COVID. And and I see some are taking those choices, and so I appreciate that. I wanted to, I had a chance to read to some of the classrooms at Whitaker for Read Across America, and that was a very fun event. And seeing the kids in their classroom and seeing their faces and how they appreciated that. And I was able to also but observe some of the speeches. Thursday afternoon, I was only able to see the middle schoolers, but on Saturday, I was able to see both the elementary and middle school speech contestants, and they did a fantastic job. And I wanted to thank all the parents and the teachers and the coaches, everybody who made that possible, because I know it is very difficult, especially as a young person, to get out front and speak. And so I want to just thank everybody who helped support them and get them there. And I know there's a trip tomorrow to Whitaker. I don't know if there's any more room left. Oh, great. Well, so I'm looking forward to going to Whitaker tomorrow. And I am definitely looking forward to Pendleton's report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Shed. Hello, everyone. Good evening to all. Thank you for being here. Pendleton's in the house. I'm excited to hear everything going on. I'm also a parent that has students at Pendleton, so Pendleton is top of mind when it comes to a lot of things. But hopefully nobody's lost a lot of too much sleep over an hour. So, I mean, I'm always trying to catch up on sleep myself. So hopefully everybody's surviving it. But I also want to start off by congratulating the elementary and middle schools for participating in speech and debate. You know, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of dedication to accomplish what they did on Saturday. I know it. I lived it firsthand. My daughter Emma was part of it. And I see her practicing every single night, you know, going, you know, over her flip charts and trying to turn it in on time and still trying to manage other activities. And, you know, as parents, it's not easy, but I also want to thank the parents for encouraging, for supporting the students that participated in that. That makes a world of a difference for them, because it's going to follow with them throughout their entire lifetime. They're going to think about mom and dad or anybody just giving them that support that they need just to get through some tough days. Also wanted to thank the coaches and the staff for all their preparation for the students. It also takes a lot of hard work on their end to get them ready to get to that point. So thank you everybody that helped them out in preparation for the tournament, because little do these students know this is something that they're going to carry on as they move on in life, right? Some of these things aren't just taught just because or learned just because. We need to empower our students a little bit more to be out there and be self-confident in what they do because that's the only way that we can catch up to a lot of things. You know, the world doesn't wait for us. We got to keep after it and keep chasing it to make sure that we prepare all of our students the same way at all school level sites. So thank you for that. And then also, I was able to participate in the president's professional development day for board presidents. I was able to, sit through a Saturday of my day and also learn a lot to see what's going on and some of the changes and how we can be better presidents. So that was a good professional development day for myself. And I took a lot away from that. And then lastly, I do want to, I'm excited to hear everything Pendleton has going on. Pendleton has gone through a lot these last few years. I mean, we're talking coaching now, we're talking IB candidacy. Those are some of the things that we weren't, thinking about before. There has been a lot of change and there's been a great deal of stability now. Every time I walk on campus, I see the morale, it's high. Everybody's communicating, everybody's enjoying, being on site. And I see it in the students' faces, right? Because those are the students that we're teaching. And also I hear it out in the community. They're proud of sending their parents to Pendleton. So thank you for everything that you do. And I look forward to tonight's report. And that concludes my report. Dr. Melamontes.
Yes, great visit to Gilbert School last week, observing students and staff. Again, I appreciate all the efforts from them as they continue to improve their teaching and learning practices. This weekend, I did have a chance, and I know Mr. Sipes was with me from the crowd there. We had the opportunity to head out to the Apple Tower Theater in downtown LA, which was pretty amazing. I mean, what that place has been renovated from where it is now, was a pretty incredible experience. I want to thank Andy Osborne and all the staff members that were able to join us there to learn and grow together. As Ms. Lamont mentioned, we have 2 middle school students that will be participating in the World Speech Day tomorrow, March 15th. It's an international nonprofit organization that reaches over 100 countries with the goal of emphasizing the importance of public speaking and advocacy, and our 2 students did an outstanding job. I will post those on our website so people can actually see the great work that's being done from those students. I do want to welcome the Pendleton students, staff, and parents that are here tonight. Looking forward to a wonderful report, and most importantly, looking forward to honoring your children. That's why we're here tonight. That makes, I think, the board meeting the most exciting piece of all. Pendleton's school climate, as President Fruitless mentioned, when you walk on that campus, you're always felt with a sense of warmness. And it starts to see Mrs. Acevedo in the background there. She's the first person that greets you through that office, right? So thank you, Janet, for all that you do in that office. That's actually in my notes, whether you were here tonight or not. But we're looking forward to the future. As our president had mentioned, IB candidacy is not an easy thing, but it does elevate the school. Coaching is not an easy thing. As our teachers know, it's not an easy thing. We have national board certified teachers on that campus, not an easy thing. We're stretching ourselves. There's a commitment from our Board of Education with the taxpayer dollars that came through to improve all our sites, not just Pendleton, but all our sites. So Pendleton will be receiving new administration building, a parking lot that's large enough, right, for their staff and their parents to be a part of. The playground's going to be redone. So there's a lot happening in the next year and a half at Pendleton. So I'm excited about it. I hope that you're excited about your school. It's a wonderful place. One thing that I will mention is that I know I see Mrs. Lineker in the background. We had a chance to visit all the special ed classrooms last week, and every time we go there, it gets better and better and better. I can't tell you how many students just struggle at the end of the year, right? Gen Ed and SPED students. And I want to thank our special education teachers and staff members, our aides that are in those classrooms. They've done a tremendous job. And every time you get a new student in there, it throws everybody off a little bit, but they're doing a great job there. And like I said, I am very proud of our students, staff, and the whole Pendleton community. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move on, I just forgot to mention, I did also listen and watch Fatima and Eugene's speeches. And after I listened to their speeches, I came up with 3 words that kind of summed up everything for me. I got hope, unity, and determination out of their speech. And I know, but Eugene collects some pens, so if she's watching out there, I'm sending you a special pen. I also collect pens, and this one says inspire, so this one's for you. And then for Fatima, one that came to mind was, better together. So I'll be sending out to the district for you guys. So I just wanted to share and, shout you guys out for great speeches out there. So thank you. And we'll be moving on to programs and report, Mabel L. Pendleton School Report.
I'd like to introduce, it's an introduction, but Lori Ann Leota, the principal for Pendleton School. Ms. Leota.
There we go. Okay. Good evening, President Frutos, distinguished members of the board, cabinet, esteemed guests. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Lori Ann Leota, and I'm the proud principal of Mabel L. Pendleton Elementary School. Next slide. You don't have to change the student population to get results. You have to change the conditions under which they learn. Dr. Noguera. We have amazing scholars at Pendleton who want to be academically successful. We knew that our students had missed quite a bit of instruction due to the pandemic, and we knew that we needed to change the learning conditions to meet their needs. I am proud to say that our Pendleton staff has done just that. They've changed the learning conditions, our students have grown, and we've seen a lot of academic success. It's shown to us that with the appropriate support and guidance, our scholars will show us what they know. Tonight, we're going to review 4 main areas of focus: new programs, math implementation, strengthening ELA and ELD, and meeting the needs of the whole child. Up first is our new programs, with our focus on our Mod Severe SDC program, as well as International Baccalaureate. The Pendleton team is so glad to be the home of all of the elementary SDC classes. Our students and staff have adapted very well to Pendleton. And they work very collaboratively with our gen ed staff. So our SDC teachers, all of our ed specialists, as well as our gen ed staff, know that they can call on one another and rely on one another. And we collaborate well together to ensure that all of our students are successful at Pendleton. Next slide. I want to take a minute to just look at some of these photos here, if you can see them. These are some of our fantastic scholars in our classes, in our SDC rooms. Our students are completing work, really hard work, and they're doing it with a smile on their face. Sometimes we have tough moments, but we power through, and with appropriate support, we're getting through those moments. We're seeing that our students are more and more happy to come to school on a daily basis. And we knew that there was a learning curve at the beginning of the year, but we're seeing lots of great success. Are also focusing on this year is for us to provide inclusion opportunities. So while our SDC students are in their classrooms, we do want to make sure that they are included in every activity that we have that's school-wide with our gen ed peers. Next slide. International Baccalaureate. So as stated, we are very excited. We received our official candidacy that began on November 16th. And we have started all of the work to create a transdisciplinary approach to instruction at Pendleton, which lands its hand really well to Universal Design for Learning, which focuses on student agency, student choice, and the ability to actually access learning that makes meaning for themselves to be successful. Our teachers have been really hard at work at designing our units of inquiry, which is a brand new way of doing things for us, but they're diving in deep and doing that hard work. And I'm confident that we'll be successful in being able to pursue our authorization as an IB World School. Next slide. To ensure that our community is by our side as we go through this process, we have had a parent series so that we can share bite-sized chunked information so that our parents are aware as to what IB actually means, because it's really exciting, but it's a lot of information. So instead of holding one information session, we're breaking it down. We've held 2 thus far. We have another one that will be coming up soon so that our parents are aware every step of the way. By the time we receive authorization, they will be well informed about what IB means and what PYP means for our site. Next slide. Math implementation, training and engaging with CGI. Next slide. So up top, you can see our window 1 diagnostic results for our iReady math assessment. And the bottom bar represents our diagnostic results for window 2. Even if the data doesn't make a lot of sense to you, you can see the green bar has grown, and green is the color that we all love to see. We had fantastic growth. Our grade level, or students who scored at grade level, grew by 9%, which is fantastic. But what's even more exciting is that we had double-digit reduction in students who were assessing below grade level, and 17% of our students less scored below grade level this go round from the second assessment from the first. Next slide. And here's just a quicker visual. It just makes it easier to look at. So we have 3 tiers. Tier 1 is our highest achieving. Tier 3 is our students that need a little bit more support. And so you can see Tier 1 and Tier 2 had a significant increase. And then we see that fantastic reduction in our Tier 3 numbers on the right-hand side. Next slide. Cognitively guided instruction. Our scholars are really proud to show off their thinking. If you come to our site, you can see that they're excited when they see Evelyn's method on the wall or Julian's method on the wall. Our students are mathematicians. They're making meaning of what they've learned and they're showing you what they know and they're proud to do it. Of course, we give them the appropriate academic vocabulary, but they want to take ownership of those methods and strategies. And as mathematicians, they should. Next slide. Here is some of the photos of some of our student work. You can see that our scholars are hard at work, building upon their current understanding. You can also see some counting collections work that has been done. Although at first glance, it might just look like our students are just counting, they're doing far more than that. They're not only counting, they're starting to get an understanding of base 10 and being able to actually represent their thinking on paper as they go through this process. Next slide. Let's talk about building upon our existing practices in reading and writing workshop for strengthening our ELA and ELD. Next slide. Let's start with the data. So for our diagnostic 1 on our iReady assessment, that's on top, and diagnostic 2 is on the bottom. And you can see really exciting news here. We had even greater growth in ELA. And so we had double-digit growth of students that were achieving at grade level, as well as a double-digit reduction of students that were assessing below grade level. So we're exceptionally proud of the growth that we've seen thus far. Next slide. Again, another quick glance, we can see that our Tier 1 and Tier 2 has grown. If you look at Tier 1, we see a really nice jump, and that is our highest achieving students or our highest scoring students. So we're exceptionally excited about that. And Tier 3, you can see the same level, basically reduction, which is very, very exciting. Our students needed time to get back into the classroom, get into the groove of things, get into the groove of being able to complete a standardized assessment. But once they've done that, we're able to see that they can show us what they know. Next slide. Reader and writing workshop and ELD. The Pendleton team has been digging deep and they're going and having conferencing sessions with students to obtain a better understanding of where their students are, where gaps may actually be. And we've aligned our English language arts focus to our ELD to strengthen that instruction for our English learners. Our ELD focus is to be assets oriented and needs responsive, providing meaningful access, systems, conditions that support effectiveness, and an alignment and articulation within and across all of our systems. Next slide. See a need, meet the need. So through an analysis of our assessment data, as well as our CAST meetings and students that were brought to the table, we realized that we needed some additional intervention support or structured support for our students with respect to reading. While we saw that there was growth, we also saw that some of our students were still reading below grade level and we needed to meet that need. And so in addition to the work that's already happened, we decided to move forward with a structured intervention support program. And doing so, we looked at what we needed to do to meet this need. And so based on the National Early Literacy Panel and the Reading Panel, we knew that there were 5 main areas for reading instruction that would really help boost our students' understanding. And so we focused on phonemic awareness, systematic phonics instruction, reading fluency instruction, vocabulary, and comprehension. And we're confident that with this systems approach, we will see continued growth in our students' ability to read and comprehend their reading. Next slide. Meeting the needs of the whole child. Pendleton is really focused on meeting the whole child and not just meeting their academic needs. Next slide. So our Panorama Highlight, which we're very excited about, is there on the screen. 62% of our scholars felt that they had the potential to change the factors that are central to their performance in school. We're so proud of this data because it tells us that our students understand that their minds are really powerful and that they have the power to make a change. Next slide. We're also excited because it shows that we're in the 90th percent across the nation in that data, which is something that I'm very proud of. You can see that our students are doing some really intentional work in the classroom around growth mindset, so that when we have challenging moments, which they will come, they know that they're not there just yet, but they will be. And you'll hear that very often around campus. A student will say, I don't know this yet. and they know that they continue on that path with that growth mindset, they can get through all of those challenging moments and learn it, even if it takes them a little bit longer. Next slide. So returning to school after emergency closures, we knew the return to full-time instruction would involve a learning curve. So I just want to read the quote that is here. Our efforts as educators must go beyond literacy, math, history, science, and other core subjects to include helping students to build the social, emotional, and behavioral skills they will need to fully access and participate in learning and make the most of their potential and future opportunities. Their current U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. And so again, we knew that some of our students hadn't accessed consistent full-time learning for 18 months. And so we anticipated that there would be some behavioral needs regardless of placement, whether they're gen ed or not. We just knew that sitting in a classroom for an entire school day and being asked to actually complete work consistently was going to be really hard for some of our students, especially when they were used to being home and having access to whatever they needed and being able to get up and be comfortable in their own setting. Even just the social interactions would be stressful for some of our students. And so we decided to take a proactive approach and anticipate this need and take some steps to make sure that we were able to meet that need. Next slide. And so by doing this, we decided that we were going to take on restorative, or rather registered behavior technician program. It's a 40-hour program, and over a quarter of our staff are already authorized as RBT practitioners. They've done this on their own as part of our school day. Some of them, when they have release time, some of them have done it in the middle of the night or during winter break, but they've powered through and completed these 40 hours. It's provided them with great information about how to analyze behavior, understanding that behavior is communication, how to reshape and mold the behavior so that what we're seeing is positive outcomes for our students, and being able to actually take data to understand how often it's happening. Because in the moment it can be stressful and it can feel like it's happening all the time, but the data helps us understand that maybe it's not happening as frequently as we thought. And there are certain things that we've done throughout the day that provided positive results, and we can continue to shape that behavior. And so with this training, our staff has that information and they're able to apply this, and we're seeing our students are better able to access instruction than they had previously. Next slide. A time to celebrate. So we are officially a Coates in School, which we are exceptionally excited about. We are so very proud. We have our mentor, Kristen Sherman, if she's willing to stand. And we have 5 equally fantastic fellows. And if you're here, would you be willing to stand when I say your name? Karen Connolly, one of our first grade teachers. Mary Lee Parker, our Math Academy teacher. Lynn Sipes, our 4th grade teacher. And Suzanne Huerta, who is actually a mild mod teacher at Whitaker, but for purposes of learning and collaboration through Coatesin, we are all Team Pendleton. And so all of our fellows and our mentor are totally focused on CGI, which is fantastic because it helps for them to bring back additional information to our entire staff. They've presented staff-wide at our staff meeting. They've assisted by providing us with information, meeting with teachers individually, collaborating so that we all have a better understanding of how to instruct our students through CGI. In addition to this, they've attended lots of professional development, which they've also brought back and shared with some of our team members. Next slide. And so some of those professional development opportunities include equity, family engagement, and SEL, which we know are very important, have always been, but especially so today in education. These PDs have better helped our teachers and staff access our students and help to meet their needs. Next slide. Pendleton has been very busy this year. And so you can see some of these photos of some of our scholars working, as well as some of the exciting things that have happened here on campus. We are really hard at work, and we are using the IB framework and UDL together to meet our students' needs through that transdisciplinary approach. But it doesn't mean that we don't enjoy our time and celebrate. Today was Pie Day. I had on a pie shirt. Some of our staff is here and they have pie shirts on too. Our scholars came up with creative shirts. Some of them created their own. We have Twin Day and Spirit Days that we celebrate. And we also have our monthly celebrations where we honor our students that are learning and growing and showing us that they're doing exceptional work on campus. Next slide. And so Pendleton is positioned for continued growth. We know that, and we're very excited about it. Our scholars are motivated, like I said, to show us what they know, and they do that consistently. Our staff are excited and they remain optimistic about helping to support and guide our students. And because of that, I know that we'll continue to see that growth on our scholars' academic journey. So before we go on to the last slide, I am going to ask of the entire team, because there's a lot of them here, willing to stand. And I just want to take a moment to recognize all of these fine, hardworking people who come to work every day with a smile on their face. There's a lot of them here, so you can tell that they love our students, and our students are that much better for it. So if we could please give them a round of applause for all of their efforts. Next slide. So it has been my pleasure to be able to share some of the exciting things that are happening at Pendleton. Again, we are on the move and we are positioned for fantastic growth. So I ask you to continue to keep an eye on our school and see all of the fantastic things our scholars are doing, especially as we are going through the process of our IB candidacy towards authorization. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Comments?
No, I just want to say great presentation. Thank you for all the information. And I think it's just really amazing for you not only to acknowledge and realize and bring out and knowing that our kids were going to struggle, whether they're in gen ed, STC, wherever they're placed, they were going to struggle coming back and full days and stuff like that, and acknowledging that and bringing in the RBT training program for the teachers and supporting them in that way was really great. So thank you for that.
I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done, for your leadership. I've grown myself through Pendleton. I only started as a parent, but ended up, being a proud participant of the PTA, and then from the PTA, being here. But I've also developed a lot of great relationships within the school, and I see a lot of the people that I've developed those relationships with here, either through fundraisers through the PTA or just Janet kicking me out of the office here and there because I was in there too often. But I appreciate the school in general. Every time I step onto Pendleton's campus, I feel like it's home. So, and it still continues to be home every time I'm there. So, and your leadership and everybody there still there that I know, and everybody new that is on board is making Pendleton a much better school every single day. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really does feel, it's, somebody mentioned the back that Buena Park seems like used to be the best kept secret. We can no longer be the best kept secret. We got wonderful things going on in our schools, all of our schools. Pendleton, when you walk on that campus, it feels like a preparatory school, right? So I keep teasing Mrs. Leota about being Pendleton prep school, right? Because it does have that sense of feeling and that tight-knit community that starts with our staff. And it relates to our parents. So thank you, Mrs. Leota. Thank you, staff members and parents. And now I'd like to move on to the student recognition.
Yes, the most exciting part,
All right.
at least for me, right? So tonight, we are so very excited to honor some of our exceptional scholars who have been putting forth some great effort consistently. And so we're going to go ahead and start to name our scholars and recognize them tonight. We will begin with transitional kindergarten, our scholar, Atara Pueblos from Miss Wood's class. Up next is our kindergarten scholar, Adrian Padilla from Miss Calabretta's class. Our first grade scholar is Giselle Castanedas from Miss Michael's class. Our second grade scholar is Gavin Palunas from Miss Michael's class. Our third grade scholar is Darius Pueblos from Mr. Paulson's class. Our fourth grade scholar is Alexandria Jimenez from Miss Sipes' class. And our 5th grade scholar is Tegan Lupovich from Mrs. Falcone's class. I just want to say congratulations to all of our scholars. You have been doing amazing work, and we are so very excited to celebrate you tonight.
I'd like the board to come up with an action. Our staff come up after. Next, welcome to go up in front, like to take pictures, straight up, you're welcome to that. We'll have to stop. Olive. Justin Bieber's here. Look at all the. Congratulations, students. Thank you. Parents and staff, you're more than welcome to stay for our board meeting, or if you'd rather go home and have dinner and
Get ice cream.
get ready for the.
Celebrate.
Celebrate your child.
Thank you all.
Ice cream after this.
Said on Sunday, and I didn't deliver, and I heard about it this morning.
Siblings, so the TK or the 5th grader.
Oh, they are.
Okay, now take a picture. Congratulations. Come on down. You're the next guest. Try some breath.
That's what happens when you're the tallest person. You get to do the.
I know.
Yeah, he's just like, no problem.
All righty.
You're so handy to have around.
Who needs a ladder?
Who needs a ladder?
All right. That was a great presentation, recognition of the students. So we'll be moving on to facilities modernization update. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, here to talk about the facilities and modernization updates, Mr. Mike Mackey, our Chief Operations Officer, Mike Anderson, and Tim Spencer from Teleview. Mike?
Okay, we're going to be talking a little bit about, we've said a lot about this last time, but Tim has some updates about the Beatty Locker Room project. So we made some really good milestones.
Summer's coming up quick. I know it's weird to say that. You know, we just had daylight savings time. We were already talking about summer. So we have a lot going on this summer. So I just give you an update on where we stand on everything. So the purpose of today's meeting on the next slide is just to really go over mainly where we're at with the construction of the Beatty project, and then an update on the status of all the planning for the summer jobs coming up. Next slide. So the Beatty Locker, the retaining wall on the west side of the building between the culvert where the park is and our site was poured. That was done last week. And then on Saturday, they actually worked on Saturday pouring concrete for the footings, which then allows us to wait for the cure time to erect steel. So steel will start going vertical probably Wednesday of this week is what we anticipate. which is always good. No one really sees what goes on below ground, but once you start going up, people get excited. So we'll start seeing the steel structure go up here this week, which is a really big, huge milestone for the construction. At this point in the stage, it goes a lot faster than the early part with all the grading underground and utilities. So you'll start seeing a lot of vertical progress. Construction is still anticipated to be done midsummer, so it'll be done mid-July. And on that project, we have spent about $20,000 of the $300,000 allowance in the GDP. Most of that was due to the transite pipe, which is asbestos pipe that was found with the construction. We did the overrides. The next slide. Here we just have some photos of construction activities that took place last week. You have the concrete pump for the stem wall in the back by the park. And then you have the guys laying formwork and setting rebar for the footings that were poured on Saturday. The next slide just shows a close-up of just some formwork that was for that wall. And then again, the rebar that was put into the footings. So next slide, the playgrounds. This has been our challenging project because of COVID delays and everything that you hear in the media with material procurement. And of all the jobs that we have going on right now, delivery of the material for the playgrounds has been the biggest challenge. With that, the Miracle, who's the company that manufactures the play equipment, they had their plant, they had a major piece of equipment break about 3 weeks ago, which put a pause on all the delivery. But right now it's all up and running again. We are in queue. Emory was supposed to be delivered. It was supposed to be sent on the truck this morning to the site. And then you're told that that has taken place by the end of the week. So I don't have an actual date for you, but the Miracle, the manufacturer did say it would start, the shipment will take place there this week. We'll have an update at the Friday report. Again, we're all really eager to get that thing in transit into the site. That way we can schedule the labor to put it in. Right now, our contractor is on pause until we have a confirmed delivery date of the material, and then we'll get them on the schedule. And then the rest of the sites will follow about a 4-week period. And after that, and we don't anticipate any further delays with the remaining sites, but you know, that's what they said about this one too. So we'll keep in communication with the board on those dates for the install. Next slide, please. The NPR upgrades. The bidding documents have been drafted. They're with the district right now to the purchasing department to review. We do an in-depth review between Sandy's team and our team and Mr. Magoo. Everyone looks at all those documents to make sure everything's in compliance. They're big documents, so we get a lot of eyes on them to make sure we don't have any errors in dates or spelling errors and things of that nature. But they've been sent to the district for review. That process will take a little bit, and we'll get that out. The bid is scheduled for April 4th to advertise for that bid. But that is contingent upon DSA approval. As of today, we do not have DSA approval. Like everything with DSA, they will not give you a hard date. But as soon as we get the stamp, we will send out the advertisement. We expect that to be the first week of April. Next slide, please. Whitaker Curb Appeal. Again, the bid documents have been drafted. We are waiting for a DSA approval on this one as well, which we anticipate to receive mid-April. And upon approval, we anticipate advertising April 15th. Next slide, our big construction project that's starting this summer is the Pendleton, which is really turned into a site remodel because there's a lot going on that site. There's a lot of changes taking place out there, mainly with the hub of construction in the admin building, and then the NPR and the parking lot and the playground. There's a lot going on. So those bid documents, we did have our back check for DSA, which is the initial submission. DSA comes back to the architect with a bunch of comments, and then we call that the back check set that they stamp and approve. So that back check is being reviewed right now between the architect and DSA, and they're talking to each other about the comments and questions that they had regarding our project. So that's where we stand right now, which is a huge step with DSA. That process has taken, it's been going a lot faster recently with everyone working at home at DSA. Back checks are going a lot quicker for some reason. The initial review is taking longer, but the back checks going pretty quick. So we anticipate that to be done by the 3rd week of April, and we'd like to advertise that by the end of April as well, in preparation to get a contractor on board to start the work in the summer. So right now, with that, just a little side note on Pendleton, just as something to keep, just to be open about where we at. The playgrounds have not been they were not in the back check set. So we are going to send those to DSA through the approval process, once we get approval, through either a CCD or an ASI. It's not uncommon that we do that, but we just want to speed up that process because the Pendleton playground isn't getting installed right away. We wanted to push the approval of the building that we can start in the summer. And then, hey, ADSA, here's the change that we're going to add for the playground. So that's been the plan from day one. And so if you look at the drawings, you won't see the playground in there. That's the plan. Next slide. Just some future projects, just to track for everyone to keep in mind is this is an ongoing list of things that we're tracking with the parking lot expansion, the outdoor learning space, HVAC maintenance and upgrades that we're doing, asphalt projects, there's ongoing solar that Mr. Nagry will talk to you about here shortly, just for the status of that. Just the Whitaker Park, we're in constant communication with the city to get that park moving forward. And then just various painting projects and maintenance projects going on that will take place.
So on a couple of different things, the first thing is that we did a walk with the solar team. We are still slated for starting on July 11th. They're going to do both the middle schools in the parking lot where we have solar panel structures going over the parking lot. So that gets done during the summertime. The solar company is responsible for the path of travel for the ADA path of travel. And so they will be modernizing our path of travel from the lower parking lot at Beatty and modernizing the path of travel for the Winter Park Middle School next door. And they're also gonna be responsible for doing the path of travel at Pendleton when they put the groundwork at Pendleton. And we did increase the outdoor learning spaces, hardscape. So every single solar panel will have hardscape underneath them, and it's gonna be asphalt right now. So with our asphalt bid, and we just got word, one of the things that is affecting a lot of our construction schedules is that the cost of material has gone up. So we do expect cost of material to increase the prices on several projects. We're hoping it doesn't go too high like our gas prices did, but we do expect that to increase.
We just want to interject there. So underneath the solar, what he's referring to is pads of asphalt underneath every solar project on the grass. So originally we were going to leave it as grass, right? Originally we we're going to leave it as grass, but as we started to see more and more sites, we actually took a couple of visits. They're turning brown because sun's not getting there or becoming mud puddles. Right, so we wanted to anticipate those type of things. So I think Mike and Mike for getting out there and looking at such things. I know our PE teachers are gonna love it because there's actually a shaded area that they can actually use as a stomping ground or starting point before they head out to the playgrounds. But just so the board, that is a change of what we originally talked about, right? On the grass areas where we have asphalt, such as Gilbert School and a couple other places, that was already going to be there. We're talking about a few sites that we wanted to change. Sorry about that. Thank you.
So we do have quite a bit of projects going on, and Mr. Anderson and I will be visiting the school sites from here on out to start talking about what they're doing, trying to get the communication out. And then we'll be working with them so that they can have pictures to send with the parents and let the community know from their site about what's going on. Any questions?
I had a quick question. I'm sorry, you probably already answered this a while ago, but just so you can remind me or refresh my mind, for the Whitaker curb appeal, does that include the parking lot? Or is that just the sidewalks?
No, it's a parking lot.
It's the parking lot too, where the teachers.
Yeah, and part of the parking lot is we're upgrading. Oh, we might not have it up here. Part of the upgrade is enhancing the drop off and pickup.
Okay,
And the intent is to get as many cars as possible into the parking lot, not on the street.
okay, perfect.
So the drop offs being reconfigured and the drive approaches are being changed. That way we can get the cars on site and wrap around the parking lot as they stage and wait for the kids at the high school.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that was the part too that I was wondering about that part too. Okay, and then like where the. Okay. And that's just for cars. The buses are still going to be on the street.
Until, yes.
Yeah, so we're making a curb cutout like you would see for like a county transit bus. How
Okay,
The curb will go down Dell Street. It'll come into our property.
okay,
So the buses will be able to come in off of Dell Street on our property
okay,
behind
good.
where the portables are and not be encroaching on. the
Okay,
street.
good. Yeah, because it's just, I mean, I'm there every single morning and when I
Yeah.
see those buses lined up and the kids are getting off and just cars are going around them and it's just so,
Yeah,
it's
so
so
the,
bad. It's so
the point is to
dangerous.
get the buses on one side of the site and the parents on the other.
Mhm.
That way you don't have a situation where a car is turning in front of the bus.
Yeah.
That one entrance.
Correct.
Right, turning up Dale right.
Yeah.
That will no longer be.
Okay. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, because it's, I know, I've seen too many and just.
Yeah, I want to
So
get
many
get the
things.
kids, get the kids that aren't going on the bus away from the buses.
Okay.
And that was very intentional. That's why
Okay.
we're doing that.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to just ask about the future projects for the Beatty parking lot. Are we waiting anything from DSA or is there nothing needed for?
Yeah,
that?
we're waiting on DSA right now. That's been submitted as a change directive to them, and we have not received their approval. I think that's one of the things that we pushed early on to get, here, knowing that the approval is going to come right for summer. school. And the intent is to have all that work done. first. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted
Thank
to
you.
ask one more just about for the Beatty Athletics building. So are we still going with the prefab? Like that would be for.
Yeah, and that's the steel that's going up later this week. It's for the
So basically like the foundation for it, but then it gets delivered to us, or is it built on site?
It's built on site and most of it's there. Most of the steel has been delivered.
Oh, wow.
So we'll be doing that throughout the rest of the week. But yeah, that's what's going to be installed, and it's installed on site.
On site.
It's cut and built in a warehouse and then delivered. And then we install.
So bring a screwdriver.
That's gonna be exciting to
actually saw
see
from the
though, to
park.
see it go up. That's gonna be cool. Yeah,
And that part goes pretty quick. So
yeah,
if you miss a day, you'll see a lot of change.
yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that'd be neat, because it's good to see progress, because when you see just a bunch of dirt laying around and excavators, it's fun for them, but it's not fun for me to see anything going up, so.
Yeah, it's very, very common in construction. It's like, you've been out there working for months. What's going on? And
Yeah.
you don't see it because it's all below grade.
Underground.
So
It's up below grade, yeah.
But you gotta build the foundation first.
yeah, it's the most important part.
Yeah, it's the most important part.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we'll be moving on to action calendar. Approval of the 2021-22 second interim budget report. It is recommended that the governing board approve the district's 2021-22 second interim report with positive certification. A positive certification indicates that the district will be able to meet its financial obligations for current and subsequent 2 fiscal years. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, I'd like to turn over Sandy Poteet, our Chief Financial Officer. And I want to thank Neelam Kakar, who has worked side by side with Mrs. Poteet, here to report and provide that financial report as the team.
Thank you. So good evening, Dr. Miramontes, board members and community members. This is our update on the second interim financial report. So if we could go to the next slide, please. I just want to thank Neelam Kakar for her assistance. I can't do this without her. That position is vital in helping get all of this data gathered and put together and our projections done on what our expenses are going to be. And I just wanted to really thank her for all of her hard work because I
Thank you,
cannot
Neelam.
do it. without her. Please. So our budget calendar, we are in the period, as I said, of second interim. So this is our data as of January 31st. So we have 45 days from the close of the month. So that would be by March 15th to provide the report to you. This is our last report before we actually start bring forward a budget for next year. This isn't the final report for the year. The final report for the year will come in September when we do what's called the unaudited actuals. But this is our last look at this year up until we're ready to start looking at the July 1 budget. Next slide. So this report includes, as I said, our actuals as of January 31st. So we're updating our revenue projections since first interim. And just as a reminder, first interim for us, we present to you in December, but that's really everything we know by mid-November. So it's been since November since we've updated some of the data. So you'll see those changes in here. Of course, our changes in expenditures that reflect whatever's happening in current programs as we've updated them as things have changed. And then our certification, as was described was based on our multi-year projection. So the next slide, please. So our unrestricted revenue changes, we've had a net increase of $135,000. So we had an increase in our LCFF revenue. So as our unduplicated count finalized, which is our students that are either on free and reduced, English learners, foster youth, that unduplicated count of students has finalized for this year. So the count has been finalized, and that did provide an uptick of revenue for us because it did, our percentage did go up. So we're over 79% now. So that's a good thing. We do have a projection of a slight decrease in kid connection for this year, and we've had a slight increase in donations. So those are the changes on the unrestricted side. We go to the next slide. Our restricted revenue, we've had our federal revenue, we show a decrease in federal special ed. Our federal dollars for special ed, we don't get those numbers until February, March. So we got them in early February this year. So we base our entire beginning of the year on last year's numbers. And then when we get the revenue in February, or we get our actual notices from the federal that comes from the federal government to the state, then we're able to update. So it's running quite a bit behind, which is normal. That's the cycle. So our federal special ed dollars are decreasing by 23,000. We have an increase in various federal COVID relief programs of 357,000. We did not get more money. I want to clarify, because our COVID dollars, we can only, the accounting treatment for them, the budgetary treatment, you recognize the revenue when you budget for the expense. So even though you have all of this money that we are going to get for the next 3 years, and we might have received the physical cash for those dollars, you don't budget them until you're budgeting an equal expenditure. So we don't want to overinflate our expenditures and put in things that we're not going to spend on this year. So as I said, this was data from first interim was November. So things have changed on what we're spending. So we're not getting new dollars. We're just spending more of the dollars than what we had originally anticipated, which triggers a change in revenue. You'll see when we get the expenditure side, there's an equal change in expenditures in our COVID funds. State revenues, we had increase in the ACES grant. This is actually just the COLA, but the state did not give us the new rates until late this year, actually after the first of the year, before we got the actual amount. So we don't want to include that in our budget till we know those dollars. We also have increases for 2 new programs that started this year, the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant and the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. So we now have revenue for those as well that are budgeted. And then we have locally restricted increase of 470,000 for the redevelopment agency fees. Redevelopment agency fees the district has been getting for many years, but we're choosing now to record those in 2 places so that we have the most flexibility for those dollars. In the past, all of the dollars have gone into Fund 40, Special Reserve for Capital Outlay, which then ties them that they can only be spent on a capital project. They can be spent on facilities projects, facility things that are not capitalized. It's a fine line definition, but to provide us the most flexibility, we can record them as a locally restricted program within our general fund, which gives us more flexibility on how to use those dollars. So we're now splitting it 50-50 between the 2 places. So we have $470,000 that we're recognizing at this time in the general fund for facilities. Next slide, please. So our overall revenue, we have a grand total revenue for the unrestricted side of 50.6 million. Our restricted total is 18.9 million for a grand total of 69.6 million. And on the chart, you can see the majority of that, 70% is coming from the LCFF funding, 10% in federal revenues, and our state and local make up another 20%. Next slide. We'll look on to expenditures. So our unrestricted expenditures had a net increase of 181,000. We had a 139,000 one-time increase of expenditures for this year. We bought a new electric bus. We also had to buy a new warehouse truck this year. So those are one-time expenses. We don't have them budgeted in future years, but we did have to go in and expend some one-time expenses to buy those things. And then of course the changes in staffing that have occurred during the year. Let's move on to the next slide. Restricted expenditure changes, a $758,000 increase. As you can see, 210 for the furniture for Beatty Middle School reconfiguration. That's coming from those RDA funds. So that's how we're able to spend those dollars on the RDA from the RDA is one of the reasons why we've moved that so we could continue to do that. The ACES program, as we said, we just got the, of course, new revenue. So now we have the new expenses that go with that budget. COVID relief funding of 357,000. That's where that matching piece I referred to earlier. And then our local grants have had an increase of 33,000. Go on to the next slide. So our total expenditures projected on the unrestricted side are 41.4 million. Our total restricted expenditures are 26.6 million for a total funding expenditures of just over 68 million. And on the side, you can see personnel costs make up 76% of our costs for the district. 21% go to supplies and services and 3% for other outgo. Our next slide. So we do have other, what's called other financing sources and uses, which is our contributions from our unrestricted side of the budget to our restricted side. We have two components there. We have our mandated contribution to the routine restricted maintenance account. That is how that account is funded. We're required because we take state money for facilities that we have to set aside 3% of our expenditures towards restricted maintenance every year. And then we have, of course, our special ed contribution and maintenance of effort that we will continue to have that we do monitor. And so those make up our contributions. Next slide. So our ending fund balance on the unrestricted side had an increase of 951,000. Our restricted increase in the balance this year is 606. So our total balance increased by 1.5 million. When you take those increases and add them to our beginning balances, it brings us to an ending fund balance on the unrestricted side of 10.1 million. Restricted ending fund balance is 3.1, and our total ending fund balance is 13.3 for both all funds together. Go to the next slide. We look at the breakdown of those ending fund balance. Our unrestricted, the 10.1 million is made up of the revolving cash and stores accounts. And we go down to other assignments. We have just over 8 million in other assignments. That includes our OPEB reserve, our Kid Connection reserve, technology reserve. We have the funds for the concentration increase, as we talked about at first interim, where they're getting those additional dollars that have to provide additional positions. And we spoke about that last month in the LCAP update. So we'll be moving forward with that. And then we have our reserve capacity, which is basically what is left that we have available, and our reserve for economic uncertainties. And that did go up slightly because that is a calculation of 3% of total expenditure. So we that has gone up at this time. So we can go to the next slide. So if we look at our overall multi-year projection, where we are for the next 3 years. So 21-22 is the first set of columns, kind of in the pink shaded. We roll over our expenses to 22-23, and that's where we're projecting for next year. You'll see we have a loss in revenue, where our revenue drop, as we've talked about before, because our ADA is has declined and due to COVID. And so right now, you're funded on the grade of current or prior. So right now our projection for 22-23 is funded on what we know for the current year, which we're running at about 96%. No, I'm sorry, we're running at about 93% attendance. So our attendance is low, and which we know there's been several proposals at the legislative level to find some relief for that. Nothing's been finalized yet. The only piece that we are able to put in our multi-year projection so far for revenue is a change in the COLA. So the current projected COLA is 5.33. So we have included that in the multi-year projection. So we've included that. We've included the normal things of step and column for all employees, expenditures rolled forward from year to year, things like the one-time thing for the truck and the bus, those have been pulled out. We don't continue those on in the budget. And so that our unrestricted budget, when we look at 22-23, we are spending down. We do have a deficit of $1 million that we're spending down, but we have as we said, almost $4 million drop in revenue between this year and next year. So then we look at 23-24, and we've increased the COLA for that year is now 3.11. So actually, it's 3.61. It was 3.11. So we got a little bit in COLA for 23-24 that we're taking into account here. Otherwise, it's standard projections of staffing costs and expenditures, and will only be deficit spending. It appears at 126,000 for the third year for 23-24. So it looks better. So those are leaves us with our ending fund balances as listed there in 22-23 of 12.9 million and 23-24 of 13.5 million. We go to the next slide. We'll dig into those reserve numbers a little bit more. So the assignments haven't changed going across the 3 years. We've left everything the same. The reserve capacity adjusts as we spend down our funds. What it does show us is that our total reserve percentage, including all the assignments, is currently 14.78 for this year. At the end of the multi-year projection, it would be at 13.36. However, if you look at just what we have in our 3% reserve and our reserve capacity, which are the two things that are not earmarked, that would bring us, we currently are at 11.38 and we would be down to 6.19 in 2 years. That's where our current estimate is at the end of 23-24. We'll go on to the next slide. So this is just a summary of all of our other funds. We have our Child Development Fund that is where we have our state preschool program. So that has it has an ending fund balance of 219,000. Our cafeteria fund is projected to have an ending balance of 2.9 million this year. Deferred maintenance has a small $12 balance. Fund 21, our bond fund has, I know that. Yeah, fix the light for $12. So we have that slight amount in deferred maintenance. Building fund is at 10.2 million. That's where we're doing all of our bond funds. Capital facilities fund is at 1 million. County facilities fund has $7,800 in it, and our special reserve for capital outlay is at 6.6 million. We'll go to the next slide. I know there's a lot of data. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I kind of want to know, maybe it's something that we can kind of lobby about whenever we get a chance to sit down with someone. What is something that would make these numbers so much better? What would be your dream? You know, what would it have to be? Would it be that maybe the attendance rates that they wouldn't, you know, for the ADA?
That's the
be
largest
the
one
key
would
one?
be if we were funded on enrollment rather than ADA. That's critical because right now you're funded, you provide a teacher for every classroom in your staffing ratios, you provide a textbook for every student, but you only get paid for those who come to school. So when they're absent, you don't get any income for them. And that's not really fair. We don't get to staff on an ADA basis. So we don't get to say so enrollment would probably be the largest thing I would say is our number one concern is, can we get enrollment? The next would be is if the state funded the LCFF base at a proper amount. The base really hasn't grown to where it should be. We're all grateful and appreciative of the supplemental and concentration increase that we got this year from the extra funds that the state had, but not all districts have those funds. And they do come with restrictions on how we spend that to increase and improve services for the unduplicated count of students. So to increase that base that allows us to prioritize exactly how those would be funded, that would be my second piece, is to increase the base dollars that we get through the LCFF.
Where would you say funding special ed needs would fall in that list?
Well, we're supposedly getting some new special ed funding. So the
Right.
state is proposing new funding for special ed. And the federal special ed needs to come up to where it's been promised. That's where the regulations about what we are required to provide are coming from the federal government, but the money to provide those services did not come with it. So I know there's proposals to increase that. If we have increased base dollars, it helps us look at things for all students. So that would still, the base dollars would be the best use, because as we look at special ed programs and we look at a program, whether it's how the students are served and not necessarily if they're commingled and with, their gen ed peers, that's a better environment for them. And that would be base dollars. So base dollars would be the best to help everything.
We're coming out of 2 years of telling kids not to come to school if they don't feel well. So it's taking a lot of time now to bring these families back in. I know, a lot of people that have been getting the attendance issues, it's just their fear of bringing their kid in and we're getting, punished for being safe.
The rules for truancy didn't get changed,
Yeah.
even though we have, we're in the situation with COVID. So yes, we have this whole safety piece of don't send your child to school when they're sick. The flip side of that is we still have to meet the truancy requirements and provide all of those notices and have those meetings with families. It's a double-edged sword.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Ms. Potteet.
Thank you, Ms. Potteet. I don't have a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Resolution number 21 through 21, a resolution of the Bonaparte School District ordering closure of Fund 21 through 29 General Obligation Bond -2014, Series 2018. It's recommended that the governing board adopt resolution number 21 through 21. Resolution of the Bonaparte School District ordering closure of Fund 21 through 29 General Obligation Bond -2014, Series 2018. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Shed. Thank you, Mr. Chong. Can I get that wants a roll call?
Yes, it is.
Yes, right. And we'll do a roll call, starting with Mr. Chong,
Yes.
Ms. Castaneda,
Yes.
Ms. Shed. Yes. And I'm an aye. So motion passes 5-0.
No, you can only close that $12 bank account. Just a little bit more. Close that one.
All right. Moving on to approval of the Bonaparte and Beatty Middle School 2022 National Chess Team Trip. It's recommended that the governing board approve the Bonaparte and Beatty Middle Schools 2022 National Chess Team Trip. Dr.
Yeah, I want
Menendez.
to thank Dr. Cantu and the two middle school principals, and most importantly, the teachers, staff members that are going to be attending the trip along with some of our students. I believe it's 4 students total. What it is? 4 students, I believe, in total. We'll be heading to Dallas, Texas to compete in the national tournament. So wish them the best of luck.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Thank you, Ms. Castaneda. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Resolution number 21 through 22 regarding elimination of classified personnel positions. It's recommended that the governing board approve resolution number 21 through 22, resolution elimination of classified personnel positions. Dr. Menendez.
Yeah, I want to thank the Personnel Services Office in conjunction with our Fiscal Services Department, because we really have to balance the books there. And so we have some unfunded, unfilled positions. We've worked with both associations to talk to them about that, which is our management group about eliminating positions that are on the books, but unfilled and have been for some time. So we asked the board to adopt this resolution of these classified personnel positions.
I think I have a motion. Thank you, Ms. Shed. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Roll call?
That was a roll call?
Yeah.
Roll
Yes.
call, Mr. Chong?
Aye.
Ms. Castaneda?
Aye.
Ms. Shed? Aye. Simone? And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to discussion calendar. Board bylaw 9230, meetings and notices.
As you've all seen in the Friday reports and on the agenda, I want to thank Mrs. McPhillips, who has been working through to update our meeting notices and our bylaws for some time now. So what you have before you is the newest one that is aligned to CSPA regulations, but also includes the change in our meeting time and our meeting number of meetings per month. Any questions? Folks?
We also have job description custodial and secretary supervisor, job description early learning enrollment specialist, and job description warehouse clerk.
So I'll turn the next three over to our Chief Personnel Officer, Mr. Russell Harrison and talk about all three of these positions. Mr. Harrison?
Good evening, President Frutos and members of the governing board. You will note on the first job description, a custodial, what had been the custodial services and security coordinator. It's merely a title change, moving to custodial and security supervisor. This change brings the position into greater alignment with other positions that are comparable in the level of their duties and in the same compensation bracket, including positions such as our CalPads supervisor and transportation supervisor positions. Any questions? Moving on to our next job description, the early learning enrollment specialist. Our district is excited to be enhancing our services to preschool students in the coming school year. As we move forward with our plans to open 5 California State preschool classes next year, this job description explains a significant step in getting the word out on the streets, letting families know about the opportunity to have their children enrolled in a free program. This will be a 12-month position, and it is tasked with spreading the good word of filling these classrooms. And once we can get the students here filled in those classrooms, that will give us the opportunity to then hire further staff, including preschool teachers and early learning instructional assistants. CSEA leadership recognizes the importance of this short-term position, and we look forward to working together with them on making a permanent position in the fall. Any questions?
I do want to say this is, in addition to what Mr. Harrison says, I had a conversation with Aaron France, city manager, about the housing projections that are coming in here in the next, 2019 through 2025. 682 more units are going to be built in our district area. That's very promising for Buena Park School District. In addition, between 2025 and 2030, another 820 housing units are going to be developed in our district area. And I don't have the last piece, but it's close to over 2,000 units in the Buena Park School District that the city of Buena Park is working with the housing authority to provide additional housing units for our community. I think this is a perfect opportunity to go out and recruit as many as we can recruit, because we definitely know that one of the things that Mrs. Poti didn't talk about, that was just declining enrollment, right? So I mean, that's been the Achilles heel for all our districts in Orange County. This is an opportunity, hopefully, that these housing units will be affordable to the families in Buena Park.
Thank you. Then we'll discuss our final job description here, which is warehouse clerk. As this is a permanent classified position, I do want to take a moment to thank Lori Cannon and CSEA leadership for their collaboration in the creation of this job description, which was ratified at its chapter meeting last week. The district currently employs a single warehouse clerk whose job description encompasses many tasks, from receiving and organizing purchases and inventory and the distribution of food to various school sites, amongst other duties as assigned. This new description is for a second position that will assist the district with affixing asset tags to items that of a certain value and monitoring these assets on an annual basis as required by law. It will also streamline the distribution of mail to and between school sites. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. And we'll be moving on to consent calendar. Unless a trustee has a question concerning a particular item and asks that the item be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the items are approved at one point by the governing board. Start off with Mr. Chong. Nothing to remove. Ms. Castaneda? Check. And nothing to remove. Ms. Ahmad? And I have nothing to remove from it. Do I have a motion? Second. Thank you, Michelle. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Information and correspondence, major topics, 2021, 2022. Dr. Miramontes.
Yes, on March 28th, we've got our Go Edit Handbook Workshop, special meeting for the board. And then on April 11th, we've got James Whitaker School, another update from facility. Hopefully we'll have the delivery of the miracle. Mike and I have talked a lot about that. One of the things I'm actually worried about is the gas prices. You know, preventing some of these companies from shipping to different places in a time, in a non-timely manner. And then the gifted and talented report that Mrs. Wong will provide for us on April 11th.
Any document about this? Moving on to closed session, conference with Dr. Ramon Miramontes, Superintendent of the Buena Park School District, Russell Harrison, Chief Personnel Officer, Sandra Petit, Chief Financial Officer, Labor Relations, Buena Park Teachers Association, Government Conference Code number 54957.6, Labor Relations, California School Employee Association, Chapter number 569, Government Conference Code number 54957.6, Labor Relations, Non-Representative Management and Confidential Contract Employees, Government Conference Code number 54957.6, and Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Michelle. Do I get a second? Thank you, Ms. Amon. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Governing Board meeting is called to closed session at 6:24. I'm telling
It's
you.
freezing in here.
All right, so I have a motion to reconvene.
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Second. Thank you, Ms. Wong. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Governing board meeting reconvened at 7:16. Reporting out of closed session. Let the record reflect that no action was taken in closed session. And we're going to be adjournment to have a motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Shed. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Government
Thank
meeting
you.
adjournment at 7:16. Job, everyone.